Most people shop for trucks the wrong way. They see cheap prices, bigger tires, diesel badges, or some stupid Toyota tax, then tell themselves that means smart money. It does not. This video is about 12 trucks that look like good buys in 2026, but come with issue patterns serious enough to wreck the ownership math. These are still sitting in very tempting price lanes right now, which is exactly why buyers keep falling for them. That is why this video matters, because the wrong truck can look cheap and still cost you thousands later. Stay close, because number one is a truck people still defend online even while the repair stories keep stacking up. Number 12, 2018 to 2020 Ford F-150 3.5 EcoBoost. This is the turbo truck buyers think is the modern smart choice, and that is exactly why it lands here. The 2018 to 2020 F-150 with the 3.5 EcoBoost still looks like a strong buy in 2026 because the prices feel reachable, usually from the mid-teens into the upper 20s, with nicer trims climbing much higher. Buyers see towing swagger, huge torque, and the idea that a newer F-150 must be a safer bet than an older V8 truck. That is where they get burned. Ford itself had to launch a cam phaser replacement program for certain 2017 to 2020 F-150 trucks equipped with this engine, and that is not the kind of official issue trail you shrug off. The whole problem with this truck is that it feels smarter than it is. The performance is strong, the cabin can feel upscale, and the badge gives people confidence. But startup rattle and timing system headaches can turn that confidence into a repair conversation fast. This is not about hating Ford. This is about refusing to pretend that torque solves everything. Put this truck next to a naturally aspirated V8 half-ton or even a basic work truck, and the comparison gets more honest. The old-school truck may feel less fancy, but it also may not come with the same kind of expensive timing drama hanging over the deal. A truck that rattles before breakfast is not modern. It is a warning. If you are shopping one anyway, start with a cold start and listen hard. Ask for service records. Ask whether the PCM was reflashed. Ask whether the cam phasers were done, and do not accept vague answers. This truck sells on speed, image, and numbers. The next one sells on diesel logic, and the risk there is uglier. If you want more no-nonsense truck advice that protects your wallet, subscribe now. We break down bad years, hidden risks, and the trucks worth avoiding. Number 11. 2014 to 2019 Ram 1500 EcoDiesel. This is the diesel half-ton that sounds smart on paper and expensive in the wrong driveway. The 2014 to 2019 Ram 1500 EcoDiesel keeps pulling buyers in because it promises exactly what grown-up truck shoppers say they want. Strong torque, better highway miles per gallon, and that calmer diesel identity that makes people feel like they bought the responsible option. In today's market, these trucks still sit from around the low teens into the mid-20s, depending on trim, cab, and miles. So they always look like they might be the secret value pick. They are not. Ram had an official recall covering certain trucks with the 3.0 diesel because the high-pressure fuel pump could fail and send debris through the fuel system, potentially causing fuel starvation. That is not a minor nuisance. That is the kind of failure pattern that can turn a seemingly smart used truck into a very fast money pit. This is why I tell people to stop shopping the diesel fantasy and start shopping the repair math. Compare this truck to a gas V6 or V8 Ram at a similar price, and the diesel story gets a lot less romantic. The fuel economy can look better, sure, but one ugly fuel system problem wipes out a lot of miles per gallon bragging rights. That kind of gamble is not mature truck buying. It is expensive, wishful thinking. If you are still tempted, verify recall completion first. Then dig into fuel system history, watch for hard starting, scan for rail pressure codes, and demand real service paperwork. A cheap diesel without proof is not a deal. It is a dare. And the next truck is smaller, older, and still too risky in Rust Belt states because buyers trust the badge too much. Number 10. 2005 to 2010 Toyota Tacoma. This is the mid-size truck buyers trust so much that they stop inspecting it, and that blind trust is exactly the problem. The 2005 to 2010 Tacoma still pulls shocking money in 2026 from around $8,000 to well past $20,000, depending on cab, trim, and mileage, and that price is the trap. Buyers see Tacoma and immediately pay the tax before they even crawl underneath the truck. This is not anti-Tacoma talk. This is anti-frame rust denial. Toyota itself had to address frame corrosion problems on certain trucks from this era, with inspection programs, corrosion treatment, and even frame replacement, where rust perforation met the standard. That is a very different conversation from the usual internet fantasy, where every Tacoma is automatically the safe choice. The reason people still buy them is simple. They want the Toyota name, they want the resale strength, and they want to believe the truck is worth the premium because it's a Tacoma. Fine. Then inspect it like the premium truck you think it is. Compare one of these to Frontier or Ranger money, and the math starts looking pretty silly when the frame is the thing you should be worrying about most. Start underneath. Check the frame carefully. Ask about corrosion treatment history. Ask for recall or settlement paperwork. And inspect bed mounts and suspension mounts with a serious eye. Rust in the wrong places changes the entire value story. On this truck, the frame is the whole story. This truck can still make sense in the right condition. But too many buyers stop thinking the second they see the badge. And the next truck feels newer, drives nicer, and still manages to shake and shudder its way onto this list. If these real truck warnings save you from one brutal mistake, stay with us. We cover smarter trucks, stronger value, and the truth dealers will not tell you. Number 9. Chevrolet Colorado. This is the right-sized truck that feels smart, modern, and easy to live with right up until the transmission starts acting like a rumble strip. The 2015 to 2018 Chevrolet Colorado with the 8-speed automatic keeps fooling buyers because it sits in that sweet spot between a compact truck and a full-size headache. It looks cleaner, parks easier, and feels more civil than a big half-ton. So commuters and weekend guys convince themselves they found the grown-up answer. In today's market, most of them still sit around $11,200 to $18,600, depending on cab and trim. And that price makes the truck look like a very smart value. The trouble is the 8-speed shudder story. Owners know exactly what that feels like. You are cruising at light throttle. The truck should feel smooth, and instead, it acts as if you drove over a washboard. That kind of behavior kills confidence fast, because it turns a modern truck into something that feels worn out before it should. This is not anti-GM talk. This is about one specific problem that changes the ownership math. Put this truck next to Tacoma and Frontier money, and the decision gets tougher because the Colorado usually feels fresher inside and nicer to drive at first. That first impression is exactly why people buy it. They fall for the easier parking, the newer cabin, and the idea that a smaller truck must be the safer middle ground. But if the transmission already feels wrong, none of that matters. If you are still tempted, do a warm test drive, hold a steady throttle, and feel for any vibration or shiver. Ask for fluid history, ask whether the software was updated, and read the service paperwork as it matters, because it does. Also, judge the driveline feel carefully, because a truck like this can sound fine on a short loop and still feel terrible once it warms up. The next truck is heavier, pricier, and tied to a diesel story that got ugly fast. Number 8. Nissan Titan XD. This is the diesel truck people bought because it sounded different, strong, and a little more serious than the usual half-ton. The 2016 Nissan Titan XD diesel looked like the clever middle lane. Buyers wanted heavy-duty flavor without moving all the way into a true heavy-duty truck, and Nissan sold them the dream of extra toughness, extra torque, and something a little more special than the usual gas pickup. In today's market, private party values still sit around $13,600 to $17,200, and that sounds tempting when you see the size and the diesel badge. The problem is that the whole value story gets wrecked by the turbo-related issue trail. Nissan issued campaigns and bulletins on certain trucks with the Cummins 5.0 for high-pressure turbocharger concerns and later turbo actuator trouble. That is not small stuff. Turbo problems on a diesel truck can turn a good deal into a very ugly ownership story fast, because the repair math rises in a hurry. This is why I keep telling people not to shop trucks by vibe. The Titan XD diesel sounds like the truck for a smart, calm, experienced buyer. In reality, it can become the truck for the guy who paid extra for a diesel problem he did not need. Compare it to a gas half-ton, or even a cheaper used heavy-duty truck, and the Titan starts losing its whole reason to exist. It is neither the cheapest answer nor the safest answer. It just feels unusual, and unusual is not the same thing as smart. That matters more than image. If you are inspecting one anyway, ask for full dealer paperwork, check turbo history, scan for boost codes, and pay attention to smoke, limp mode stories, and how the truck builds power under load. A diesel with vague answers is never a bargain. The next truck is a cheap V8 half-ton that burns through oil confidence faster than buyers expect. Number 7. Chevrolet Silverado 1500. This is the half-ton everybody calls bulletproof, strong, and easy to fix right up until the oil use starts, and the whole story changes. The 2007 to 2013 Silverado 1500 with the 5.3 and active fuel management keeps selling because buyers love cheap V8 sounds, cheap GM parts, and the idea that an older domestic truck has to be a smarter value than a newer turbo truck. On paper, that sounds good. In the real world, GM had to address engine oil consumption on AFM-equipped trucks from this era, and that detail matters a lot more than internet loyalty. Most common crew cab examples still live around $7,300 to $10,100, which makes them look like the perfect rough-and-ready truck for a buyer on a budget. That is the trap. A cheap V8 truck is only smart if the engine is not quietly drinking oil and building future drama into the deal. This is where badge comfort fools people. They hear Silverado and think parts support will rescue everything. Parts support does not make oil use normal. Compare one of these to an older pre-AFM GM truck, or even a same-money Ram, and the choice gets less romantic and a lot more mechanical. If you are shopping one, ask about oil use directly, check for plug fouling, watch for smoke, and find out whether some guy plugged in an AFM disable device instead of addressing the deeper issue. Read maintenance records carefully too, because the cheap Silverado crowd includes both careful owners and complete neglect artists. The next truck is bigger, more expensive, and still manages to surprise buyers with oil consumption in a place they thought was safer. Number 6. Ford F2 150 Super Duty. This is the gas Super Duty buyers think is the safe, simple, and smart alternative to diesel drama, and that confidence is exactly what gets them careless. The 2015 to 2016 Ford F250 with the 6.2 gas V8 still looks like a strong work truck buy in 2026 because it gives contractors and tow buyers heavy-duty size without asking them to gamble on diesel repair bills. Prices usually start around $18,000 and can run into the mid-30s, depending on cab and trim. So buyers see a serious truck and assume the gas engine automatically makes it the clean answer. Not so fast. Ford addressed excessive oil consumption on certain trucks with this engine because of an internally leaking baffle in the right side valve cover, and that changes the way you should shop these. This is not me saying every 6.2 is bad. It is me saying the safe gas Super Duty line gets repeated way too casually. If the truck is using oil, the whole value story starts wobbling. Compare it to an older gas heavy-duty truck or even a strong V8 half-ton, and the math gets more honest. Bigger does not always mean better. Heavier does not always mean safer. Sometimes it just means you paid more for a problem you did not expect. If you are checking one out, dig into oil consumption history, inspect the plugs, ask whether the valve cover issue was addressed, and judge the truck for towing wear instead of shiny paint. Read service records carefully because work trucks reveal everything in the paperwork if you know how to look. The next one is older, smaller, and proof that Toyota badges do not stop frames from rusting. Number 5. 2000 to 2003 Toyota Tundra. This is the old Tundra buyers trust so much they forget to inspect the skeleton. And that blind trust is exactly why it belongs here. The 2000 to 2003 Tundra still gets treated like an automatic yes because people hear old Toyota truck and stop thinking. In today's market, most of them sit around $5,650 to $9,250, depending on cab and trim, and that price sounds fair until you remember what the real problem is. The issue here is not the V8 mythology. The issue is the frame. Toyota's frame corrosion campaign for these trucks dealt with severe rust and perforation, and that changes the whole value story. A truck with a decent engine and a rotten structure is not a smart buy. It is a future headache wearing a trusted badge. Buyers hear reliable stories, see the Toyota name, and assume the inspection is just a formality. It is not. This is the truck for people who think age plus Toyota equals safety. It does not. Compare one of these to the same money-old domestics, and the comparison gets a lot less simple once you crawl underneath. A rusty Tundra is not better because it says Toyota on the grille. If the frame is weak, the truck is weak. So when you inspect one, start with the rear crossmember, then follow the side rails, then check brake lines and rust state history like your money depends on it, because it does. Ask for campaign records. Ask where the truck lived. Look around the bed mounts and suspension mounts. A seller who gets defensive about the underside is giving you the answer already. The next truck is basically the same shudder story as number 9, just wrapped in a nicer badge and sold to buyers who think paying more means buying safer. Number 4, 2016 GMC Canyon. This is the nicer mid-size truck that still cannot shake the same transmission problem, and that is what makes it such a frustrating buy. The 2016 GMC Canyon with the 8-speed automatic keeps fooling buyers because it feels more upscale than the Chevy version, looks cleaner inside, and carries that GMC image people still associate with a more polished story. In the used market, most of them land around $10,900 into the high teens, depending on cab and trim. And that sounds reasonable until the transmission starts acting up exactly like the cheaper Colorado. Buyers pay extra because they think a GMC badge buys a calmer experience. It does not. The same core shudder issue can still show up here, which means the truck can feel smooth 1 minute and then feel like it is rolling across a washboard the next. That kind of behavior ruins confidence fast, because it turns a modern truck into something that feels worn out before it should. People convince themselves that the nicer trim or the nicer logo means the bigger risk must be smaller. Sometimes it is the same risk in a more expensive wrapper. Compare it to Colorado and Tacoma money, and the whole equation turns ugly. Because you are often paying more for a truck that carries the exact problem you were supposed to be avoiding. On inspection, you need a warm test drive, not a lazy loop around the block. Hold a steady throttle, feel for the shudder, ask for fluid history, ask about software updates. Judge the driveline honestly. If the truck feels odd, do not talk yourself into loving the interior. The next truck is a nicer GM half-ton that still drags AFM oil consumption baggage with it, no matter how clean the paint looks. Number 3, 2014 to 2015 GMC Sierra 1500. This is the premium-looking half-ton with the same old oil appetite hiding under the hood, and that is why so many buyers get trapped by it. The 2014 to 2015 GMC Sierra 1500 with the 5.3 and AFM looks like the smarter version of a Silverado. It feels classier, costs more, and gives buyers that comfortable lie that a nicer truck must have a cleaner story. In reality, the AFM risk does not care about leather seats, chrome trim, or Denali fantasies. In the used market, these trucks still range from around $11,900 to over $22,000, depending on cab and trim, which means people are paying real money for a half-ton that can still drag oil consumption and lifter concerns into the ownership picture. That is the center of the problem. Buyers pay GMC money expecting a more premium story, but the engine does not magically become more reliable because the truck looks better in photos. That is what makes this such a bad value lane. Compare it with the same money non-AFM older trucks, or even some Tundra and Titan shopping, and the Sierra starts looking a lot less clever. If you are buying used trucks for long-term math instead of short-term image, AFM baggage matters more than a nicer dashboard. On inspection, check the oil level right away. Listen for lifter noise. Watch for misfire clues. Read the service records carefully and ask whether anything was ever addressed around the AFM hardware. This is the kind of truck buyers still defend because it feels expensive enough to be trustworthy. That is exactly the mistake. And the next one is newer, more expensive, and proves that paying $25,000 does not guarantee you skipped the problem years. If you want hard truths on bad trucks before they burn your budget, subscribe now. We are building this channel for buyers who want smarter picks, stronger value, and fewer expensive mistakes. Number 2, 2020 Chevrolet Silverado 1500. This is the truck that still looks new enough to fool buyers into thinking the bugs must be gone, and that false comfort is why it hits this high on the list. The 2020 Silverado 1500 with the 5.3 or 6.2 still commands serious money in today's market, from around $16,850 up into the mid-30s. with many common crew cab LT trucks living right in the middle. That price is what makes the issue trail so painful. Buyers look at the body style, the screen, the cab room, and the age, then tell themselves it is too new to be trouble. That is lazy thinking. GM bulletins in this engine family discuss broken valve springs and DFM or AFM, related lifter oil manifold service kits, which is not the kind of story anyone expects when spending this much on a used truck. But that is exactly the trap. People buy it because it feels modern, roomy, and safe. Compare it with the same money F-150s and Rams. And at least those trucks come with issue patterns buyers talk about more openly. The Silverado still gets a free pass from people who assume the newer shape solved everything. It did not. On inspection, go straight to the engine story. Ask about misfire history. Listen for lifter noise. Ask whether the truck ever had valve spring symptoms or oil manifold service. Read dealer service records in full, because this is not the place for vague answers. A $25,000 truck with engine family baggage is not a bargain. It is a financial mistake to wait. Subscribe if you want the truth before you buy. We are building this channel for buyers who want calmer ownership, better value, and fewer regrets. And number one is, the truck internet diehards still defend hardest, even though the issue trail is long, ugly, and expensive. Number 1. 2004 to 2006 Nissan Titan. This is the cheap V8 truck people defend because it sounds tougher than the price tag, and that is exactly why it wins number 1. The 2004 to 2006 Nissan Titan looks like the kind of bargain people love to brag about finding. Full-size body, V8 sound, lower price than a Tundra, and used values that still sit around $5,150 to $7,800, depending on cab and trim. On the surface, it looks like the perfect answer for a buyer who wants full-size power without Toyota pricing. That is the bait. The deeper problem is that the early year issue concentration is long enough to poison the whole cheap truck fantasy. Nissan documents from that era include condenser fan recall and warranty extension history, plus a rear door harness voluntary recall for certain King cabs, and that official campaign trail lands on top of the broader complaint history these trucks already carry. That matters because cheap V8 trucks only work when the ownership story stays simple. This one does not. Buyers still defend it because they love the engine sound, the size, and the feeling that they found a secret alternative to the usual half-ton names. But when multiple campaign-type problems stack up on the same early-year truck, the math starts breaking down. Compare it to the same money F-150, Silverado, or first-generation Tundra shopping, and the Titan keeps losing its supposed advantage. It just looks like a bargain from across the lot. On inspection, campaign completion comes first. Then check electrical behavior, ask about cooling fan history, inspect harness repairs, listen for exhaust noise, and read the whole truck for signs of neglect. The deeper reason this truck lands at number 1 is simple. It looks exactly like the kind of cheap V8 win people brag about online. But the issue trail is long enough that the smart money often walks away. Click on the next video because the worst trucks keep fooling buyers who shop with emotion first. Subscribe for smarter picks, stronger value, and fewer expensive mistakes before another cheap-looking truck turns into a repair bill you never should have accepted today.